Many thanks for watching. It's Breakfast Central on News Central. We'll start in Nigeria, where calls by the Nigerian Press Organisation, which comprises of the nation's newspaper Proprietors, Association of Nigeria, Nigerian Guild of Editors, and Nigerian Union of Journalists. And I say that with a smile on my face. Now, on the House of Representatives to step down a bill seeking to amend the Nigerian Press Council Act. Now, it seems to have paid off, after all, as the House yesterday announced the suspension of that particular bill.
Now, the sponsor of this bill, that's Segun Odebumi, said that the suspension is to allow for proper consultation over the bill. Now, recall that several media organizations and groups have also criticized the various clauses in the bill as possibly discouraging freedom of speech and press in the country. Now, what are the implications of the NPC Amendment Bill? Well, we have joining us this morning the Assistant Editor of Business Day newspaper. We also have the President of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Christopher Isibuzo. We also have Tayo Fabule, Assistant Editor of Business Day newspaper, and online news editor Lekan Otufo-Dunrin. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you on the program Breakfast Central.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so let's start with Mr. Isuguzo on because on Monday we saw most of the newspapers in the country. You know, it was one voice about the media blackout. You know, the dailies going by that information blackout, leading to what was also pioneered for the move. Now, could you tell us what the bill is all about? Because for the average Nigerian who are not in the media space like us, they might not really know what it's all about. The amendment of the NPC Act. All right, for you, Tayo, you can run with that question.
Fantastic, Olisa, thank you. Well, the amendment of that act is really a take back to a period where many of us probably were not, well, no, I won't say many of us, most of those of us who are very familiar with democracy are not familiar, we're unfamiliar with. It takes us back to a period when you'd have the government deciding what is news and what isn't news, and deciding also and arresting those who they consider to be purveyors or people who are passing on or reporting fake news. Now, this is how journalism works, okay? You go out there, you get your facts, you report the facts, okay? They're deemed truth, and you publish. Now, the NPC is saying, you know what? We will determine what is true, what is fact, and if you fall short, we will arrest you and we'll put you behind bars. This is not new, okay? I mean, Nigeria, if you go back to the military, so basically taking us back to the military days, the military era, where you had Decree 4, a very noxious decree, whereby the government would just wake up in the morning and pick up journalists and say, you know what you said was embarrassing to the government, we don't like it, we're going to put you behind bars. And this happened to Nduka Rabo and Tunde Thompson of The Guardian, and they're put in Black Marias just based on this decree. So this NPC amendment is sort of sneaking in, and the way it's being done is so surreptitious, okay? The press didn't know, the stakeholders didn't know, and then you have this law just basically giving the NPC so much power to basically decide what is news and what isn't news, to jail you, to fine you from 250,000 naira to 10 million naira, to close down a newspaper, to list journalists, to dislist journalists, and so much power that goes to the Minister of Information, and it's really awkward in a time of after 20 years of democracy in a country where the press played a frontal and critical role in bringing about democracy.
All right, thank you very much, Tayo. We still have on the line, joining us via phone, the president himself of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Isuguzo, Chris Isuguzo. Good morning, welcome to the program. All right, looks like we have a bit of a, but we'll still continue the program. Tayo, we just talked about the National Press Council, and Oluchi, even I am surprised that the National Press Council is supposed to be our colleagues,
right?
You know, so
exactly.
We talked about them surreptitiously sneaking in those, sweeping clauses in that bill. I really wonder what form of consultation were done? Because at the end of the day, we're talking to journalists and editors.
Yes.
You can't
media practitioners.
Yes.
Where I mean, I think we have Mr. Isibuzo back on the line. Good morning, sir. Are you still there? Right. Okay. Now, so for Mr. Tayo, this is a question that a lot of people are also asking. I mean, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, came out and said he's against any form of bill that will limit the freedom of speech, especially for the dissemination of information by media practitioners. And there are questions that media practitioners are against the bill because they don't want it. They don't want to be monitored, hence the call for the scrapping. Is this the true state of things, Mr. Tayo?
Certainly not. I mean, there's a practice elsewhere where you have an ombudsman, okay, where basically it's self-regulation. The press, the media, yes, we know, okay, that our role is held in trust for the people to question those in power, to hold them accountable, and then also to have the people to a voice for them to be heard. Now, that role is held in trust, so it should not be abused, and we know that we are aware of this. And because we are aware of this, we are for self-regulation, to hold ourselves to that high standard of making sure that we report the facts, we are fair, we are objective, and of course that we do not pass around fake news. So yes, in that sense, but it's not for the law. And besides, there are other ways you can settle what the fears of the lawmakers are, or the sponsors of this bill. You have the law courts. So where you feel you've been libeled, where you feel you've been offended, you take it to the courts. But you don't do that. You don't create a press council, which really, in effect, could be that ombudsman. Okay, but we have the NP, the National Union of Journalists, the Proprietors, the Owners Association of Newspaper Owners, and the Guild of Editors already have proposed a different way to go about this. But what you can't do, what you don't do, where you have laws existing, where you have courts existing, is to just give sweeping powers to one person to decide what is news and what isn't news.
At least the bill, was suspended yesterday, which is good news. But I'd like to bring on news editor, online news editor, Lekan Otufodunrin. Good morning to you, Lekan. Welcome to Breakfast Central.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, Lekan, we're talking about, the NPC, NBC, formally proposed, now suspended bill. And the rally from, the press on Monday, as we saw with the information blackout in all our newspapers. What do you make about this latest one yesterday?
Well, I think it's very commendable that for once the media spoke with one voice, which is very, very important, because this is something that affects us and we really need to speak up and let people know about it. The problem is not that the media is not saying that it should not be regulated. We are saying that there are procedures. So how do you explain a situation where the press council is going to be constituted by the president and they are going to nominate every member, even including the members that will represent NUJ, Guild of Editors and whatever? This is the thing that we're talking about. The body language of the government for some time now has been that it really wants to control. First, they tried to get the social media bill, it didn't work. Now they have brought this one. That panel, they are making it compulsory for every newspaper house to join the press council. If you don't join, there are regulations. If something is published in your publication, you'll be fined. These are things that even under the military didn't happen. So we are really surprised that. So what we have seen is a solidarity, because it's a make or match situation, and we really need to speak up, and that's what we are doing. And
right, Mr. Lekan. Now, Lekan, looking at it, when it comes to freedom of expression in the whole world, there isn't absolute freedom of expression. It's been limited, it's been regulated. So coming to Nigeria, looking at Africa, bringing some of these features that is being done overseas to Nigeria, don't you think it should be welcomed with open arms, as against looking at it from the negative perspective?
We are not saying that they should not amend the bill. Part of the bill is outdated. We are saying that don't amend it in a way that will take away the freedom that is even guaranteed under the military. You didn't have to nominate the representative of the NUJ, every other person. The Minister of Information was not this powerful even under the former bill. So here you are having a situation where the Minister of Information can decide who will be a journalist, who should publish what. And for a minister that has openly expressed his impression about the media, you know that it's coming from somewhere. So that's the issue. We are not asking that they should not amend in terms with the constitutional provision. That's what we are saying. Don't take away what the constitution has guaranteed.
All right, gentlemen, before we let you go, now we know that the sponsor of the bill, Segun Odubemi, has announced that the suspension of the bill would, is effective. But would you describe this suspension as a win? And what do you think, prompted the suspension? Is this the end of it, or will we see another backdoor, sweeping powers to gag the media? Let me just use the word in Nigeria. Starting with you, Tayo.
Okay, I think I think it's Bishop Desmond Tutu that says it. For democracy to thrive, we need eternal vigilance. So we got together, as Lekon has said, and to denounce, to renounce this move, and I'm happy that it's been suspended. And I think now it's really to sit down at the table, and as Lekon has said, look, let us discuss those parts of the law that are outdated, but what you can't do, what we must not do, what they must realize, those who are pushing for it, is that tomorrow you'll be out of power, and then where will you have the press to protect you? So it's in the best interest, not in your best personal interest, but in the best interest of the country, in the best interest of democracy. So I would urge eternal vigilance. As Lekon has mentioned also, there have been moves, and this government and some people in the government have not hid their dislike for being criticized. And I don't think we should rest easy and think this is the end of it, but really to sit down, update what needs to be updated, and really get the best for the good of the country, not for our personal interests.
All right, Lekon, you can respond to that, but we're talking about press and the media here. And Lekon, it's almost like if we're forgetting that there's also the online press media space that, is also quite a debate. People can throw the word fake news up and down and use that as a means to, to clamp down on media. And we have a government that, as we speak, we can't tweet unless we use VPN. So where do you see this going, Lekon, after this bill has been suspended? Is this the end of the game, or will they still have to come back and rally once again as media voices?
Well, the word is suspension. Suspension means that it can come back. It's unfortunate that we are talking about consultation when this has happened. The consultation should have happened before now. They should have spoken with the stakeholders. They should have known the state of the initial plan that was there. This government thinks that it can railroad itself into getting whatever it wants, but that is not what it should be. It's about vigilance. Thankfully, we have spoken up, and they know that we are united about this. And so whatever time they decide to come back, we'll be there waiting for them, because we are saying that under democracy, you should not take away what the Constitution has guaranteed. In fact, the Constitution says that no law should be implemented that will take away what has been guaranteed by the Constitution. So it's unfortunate that this government likes controversy. They do things that they have to come and withdraw. Even with the Twitter thing, consultation should have happened. It's shameful for me that we are putting on the committee to go and meet Twitter. If that committee had been put in place in the first place and they've done whatever they needed to do, we will not be at this stage where we are even seem to be negotiating. How do you ban, in a 21st century, how do you ban the use of Twitter or any microblogging site when you don't have control? It's not, they really need to come to terms that we are now in a digital age. We are no longer in a local village. We're in a global village where technology determines a lot of things.
Right. Right, thank you so much, gentlemen. That was the voice of Lekon Odunfodurin, who is an online news editor, and Tayo Fagbole, assistant editor to Business Day newspaper. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on Breakfast Central.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your time. Right, more top stories right here on Breakfast Central.